Hello, and welcome to the October 1st meeting of the CARES Act Stimulus Review Team. Today, we'll be reviewing more of the applications from the public health providers and social service providers. Before I pass it over to Brent, I would like to do a quick roll call. Brent?
Here.
Jane?
Here.
Kyle?
Here.
Dr. Walker?
Yes, present.
Melody?
Here.
Hope?
Here.
And Mark. You with us, Mark? Not hearing him. All right, thank you very much. And Brent, you can go ahead and take over.
Thanks, Aaron. Welcome everyone this morning to the third meeting of the Financial Stimulus Review Team. We are reviewing applications for award recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for our public health and social service agencies. Let's, I guess, let's just jump into our review process. And the first one that we would take up this morning would be the Salvation Army. They have made a request getting there. Okay, technology is moving slower than me, and that's saying something. Yeah, we have a total.
Are we not doing United?
Oh, yeah, we're going to catch them here. The order will go in and be Salvation Army, Goodwill, United Way, and then Ascension. Then after that, we'll begin to look at the ones that we have not had a chance to.
Sounds good.
Okay. So with Salvation Army, we have a total amount requested of $164,730. They've had PPE and protective equipment of $5,390 and increased disinfection costs of $2,103 that have previously been approved. So that would leave the balance of that for us to review at this time. Let me give it over to Hope to kind of walk us through the rest of that request.
Okay, sure. Sorry, I have a little coworker with me today. Hopefully that he won't be too loud. So temporary facilities are $3,433. Work from home IT costs are $13,510. Any other emerging needs, $7,294. Expanding service costs, $103,000, and food assistance programs of $30,000. So I had sent, I know the group had a few questions for the Salvation Army, and I had sent the questions to them, and I have not heard back yet on more details for the $103,000, the $30,000 for food, and then asking about the salaries for the Camp Hiawatha on the front. So as soon as we do hear more information, I'll let the team know on that, but I have not heard back yet on that.
So we just keep it on hold, I guess?
I think so. We'll just table it till we meet again.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And if for some reason I get the information while we're in this meeting, then I'll bring it up before we end today.
Okay, let's move back to Goodwill Industries. We have a total request of $2,382,114. We have funded PPE. Disinfectant costs of $132,981. Balance of their request is $2,249,133.
Well, I don't think they've revised their request from what I
Agree.
Their new request is 928,361, I think. Is that right? We just were sent.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the 3 emails yesterday. I did send a note back to Hope, and Hope had said that it was the last one that we received was the revised funding request.
Of 928,361, is that the most recent request total?
Shannon, are you on the phone? Shannon's been really helping me with Goodwill, so this one's, we've had a lot on this. Let me see. I mean, I did get a response back for the questions that you guys did want me to ask, but let me see.
Yeah.
And I sent more last night.
Yes, yeah, I got responses on those
Good.
already. He's very
I'm just, I still am not clear on the new hires.
Do you want me to talk through my response? Will that maybe help a little bit on the questions that they ask? Because they do talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
That was my question too, Melody, which I sent in last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just go ahead if that's all right with you, Brent, while we're waiting on seeing what that final amount is. I'll just kind of talk through my response.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the question was, if Goodwill has not hired 2 full-time instructors for Next Step, have they been using part-time instructors since March? And the answer was yes. If so, how many and at what cost? And he said 16 for 28 classes, and the cost estimated at $53,415. Can they hire 2 new full-time instructors before December 30th, 2020 to receive prorated reimbursement? The answer was yes. And is this part of the $419,643 for emerging needs? And the answer was yes. And he said, this is a bit difficult to explain without diving into the weeds, so please bear with me. The Next Step Adult Education Program is a partnership between WSU Tech and Goodwill Industries of Kansas. Our instructor team usually consists of a mixture of full-time and adjacent staff. Adjacent staff are paid by instructional hour via short-term contracts through WSU Tech that typically covers 8 to 9 weeks of class. These contracts are reimbursed by grant dollars from the Kansas Board of Regents. KBOR funds roughly 25 to 30% of the Next Step program, while Goodwill covers the remaining amount with revenue from our retail stores. Full-time Next Step staff and instructors are Goodwill employees. A typical instructor would be between 8 and 10 classes taught. The remaining classes would be covered by full-time staff. As we all know, the pandemic is anything but typical. When COVID hit, we had to lay off full-time Goodwill staff and halt the renewal of adjacent contracts as classes were canceled due to the mandatory shutdowns. Additionally, one full-time staff member, the leader of our virtual classroom program, left Goodwill to pursue seminar in Kansas City. We also have another option of open full-time instructor position through Goodwill that has not been filled due to COVID. Faced with the uncertainty of another potential shutdown of our school in the fall due to COVID, we made our decision to not replace the full-time positions mentioned above, but rather use more through the fall, which of course expends more of our KBOR funding much quicker. This decision was made because it is easier and more humane to adjust their contract than it is to lay off a newly hired full-time staff member should another shutdown occur when flu season arrives. We are currently using 16 of these instructors, some teaching multiple classes to cover 28 classes. Next Step currently has 4 instructors whom, in addition to their classes, have also assumed a functional supervision role to assist the large members. Needless to say, the current full-time staff is stretched thin and reinforcements are needed soon to bring us to a more sustainable staffing level. And then Next Step Goodwill prefers to only hire full-time instructors who have first proved themselves. As such, we have an ample supply of qualified individuals from which to offer the 2 full-time positions should these dollars be approved. The next question was, are the 250 Chromebooks with cellular service for Next Step and Next Step unlocked? And he said yes, although the cellular service option has been dropped from our request, we are only requesting the computers. The question was, is this part of the $419,643 emerging needs, or is it part of the 288,750 total for expanding services? And he said this request is part of the programs and initiative portion of the application. Inquiring minds want to know, at $182,500 for 250 Chromebooks plus the prorated cellular service cost of this year, that might be close to $288,750 for expanding services. It could be part of the $419,643 request for emerging needs. I'm not sure. And he said the cellular service option has been dropped from the request. The related costs for this request are listed in the CARES clarification breakout document that I sent to Shannon Kingsley at 4:30 on 9/29 at the committee's request. The next question was, do you own the building that you say you're opening in the new school? And he said, no, it is being leased. And do you think revenues in the retail store will be increasing or sufficient to pay in 2021, as you had stated earlier? And he said, yes, our retail income is currently holding steady at a reduced but sustainable level. We have adjusted our budget accordingly and have the blessing of our board of directors to move forward with the new facility.
Okay, so I'm going to say back what I think I just heard. And don't worry about background noise. There's going to be background noise from my house too.
Okay.
It's all good. It actually kind of is sweet. So in terms of the classes and the class instructors, they're asking for $53,304 for part-time instructors who've been working since March, 8 to 10 of them. Have I got that right?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I think, yes. Yep. That's right.
Okay. And then in addition, we have the 2 full-time instructors that they're requesting. They requested in the original application at $46,811 per instructor for a total of $93,622.
Yes.
Okay, so for instruction, they're requesting $93,622 for 2 full-time instructors and $53,304 for 8 to 10 part-time instructors. Have I got that right?
Yes. That they have had since March.
Okay.
Well, where is this in that new total they sent us?
It's not. We have to make the total. You're going to help me, Jane.
But that says total assistance sought. Is that not correct?
No, it's not. So here we
okay.
go. Hold on to your hats.
All right.
That's why I'm going through this very slowly, so we don't have to do this again. I spent an hour doing this last night.
I know. This is the worst.
Okay, so that's the instruction part. Then they're telling us they only want to purchase Chromebooks. They are not asking for the cellular connection, but I'm wondering about the service contract. So they said most recently the cost for 250 laptops would be $182,750. And then they included costs for a 1-year service contract. It doesn't make sense for us to use COVID dollars to cover a service contract for 1 year unless it starts this year. The 1 year cost was $707,750. The 2-year cost of the service contract was $1,232,750. Is that for service and not for cellular service? Or is it to service the computers? If it's to service the computers, it seems astronomical. Are those 2 costs for the cellular service that I just quoted, and the $182,750 is for the computers alone?
Just a clarification for your question, Dr. Walker. Okay, so in their supposed most updated request, which I understand is not complete, and we're going to have to build it. So that's how you came to that amount for
Yes.
service.
I think, and Jane thinks, that the application that they sent as an updated application is actually the same application they sent the first time with the same numbers. So I believe, although I'm open to amendment, editing, correction, I believe they requested $182,750 for 250 laptops,
Mhm.
Chromebooks.
Originally, that was correct, 250 at 731 each, correct.
Okay. And do you see another number, Jane, that's an updated number on the cost of the Chromebooks?
Well, on the second page, is that the same as this Dell 3190 in what we got last night? Of
Okay.
237.50, or is
I-
it?
So,
I think that's a different request. It's for a system that
Okay, that's,
is in a classroom.
so what I see is 250 laptop Chromebook computers at $288,750.
Yep, I saw that number too.
where'd that come from?
Yeah, where'd you see that?
Where'd you see that?
It's under the Goodwill revised funding request. I'm looking to see at what,
I had sent everybody that, I don't know if you guys are looking at the one, but it's the email that I had sent, that they sent to Shannon on Wednesday at 1:43.
Yeah. And that's where that number comes from, right?
Oh, the 288,720? Is that what?
Does that come from that email for the 250 cellular laptops?
No, I think that maybe that's different. The 288,720 is the Dell 3190, 165, $237. Accidental damage protection, $27,790. Microsoft Office, $62,417.
yeah.
Security software, $20,943, and setup and installation, $12,332.
Okay, and who's the Dell Latitude for?
I have no idea.
Or what's the Dell Latitude for?
I don't know, and that's a lot for Microsoft Office unless it's on a whole lot of computers.
Yeah, they're probably buying a site license,
Yeah.
but there's a difference between a Dell Latitude and a Chromebook.
Yes. I don't know what a Dell 3190 is.
It's just a basic laptop. It's what I'm using now.
Where'd they get 165,000 then?
I think they multiplied.
So is that a revised from the 250 computers at 731 each? Is that a-
I don't know, but Melody's right to bring it up. I'm unclear about it.
Yeah. The
Well,
other question,
the one request for the Chromebooks, I think, is for participants. It's
Yeah.
possible that the 288,720 is for staff to work remotely or for equipping classrooms, but we don't really know. Or is it for the Chromebooks? I have no idea. I mean, you
Well,
have
and
to.
this is
you put-
Lindsay. If I could,
You have to
Sorry,
put works
I just-
on computers.
well, this is Lindsay. I think one of the things that the county has been experiencing when we've been purchasing items for remote work, or if it's, maybe for youth who are in custody who need to do remote school or any of those kinds of things, the consultants have advised us to maybe push back on some of those quotes and make sure that we're prorating and paying for costs only through the end of the year. So while certainly I think the technology itself is eligible, I think some of these service agreements, some of these discussions about the office products and some of those things, probably it would be worth some additional follow-up to get some quotes and see also if there's an opportunity to go back to the company and get a revised quote for a shorter term to allow CARES money to be paid so that we are consistent in how we're approaching that across the board. So sorry, thanks for letting me interrupt.
and I have an additional, I have what I would call an overarching question that I'd love for the committee to respond to, and that is, this is based, the Next Step program is an expansion. They state, and it's stated that way. And I understand clearly that it's within COVID related constraints because of how they would have to teach and how it would be different. However, it's an expansion of their program. The collaboration, with WSU Tech and so on. So was this planned, prior to COVID would be the question, and moving it forward, they've stated that they have board approval, that they do. I believe that the receipts, the revenues that's going to come from the stores will be able to sustain that growth. So I'm just putting that. I just want to make sure that, for consistency's sake, when we look at expansion, that we know that we're fairly clear that these costs were not already within the budget for their, pushed out budget, their projected budget prior to COVID.
Melody, I'd like to address that question. I think they've answered it. They are talking about two next step programs. One, and both programs are serving a reduced population because of COVID. Mm-hmm. They're asking for additional space so that they can do physical distancing and deliver classes and allow students to participate in activities that lead towards accreditation or certification. Mm-hmm. So the two programs are next step. And that program, they estimate, has around, I wrote it down somewhere. Normally it has like 300 students, 500 students in it, but they estimate it's got more like 250 to 300 students in it because of the physical distancing requirements. And then the other program has about 100 students in it, and it's the one that's in partnership with the Department of Corrections. And it's also skill building, but more like personal finance and so on and so forth, those kinds of skills. So my understanding is that all of the teachers, the Chromebooks, the computers and equipment that they're requesting are to support these two training programs, which are now about half the size that they were before.
So basically what you're saying, and I'm just going to restate that due to COVID, the program itself has been impacted. The numbers has been impacted. However, it still is a growth expansion. They're calling it a growth expansion, and they're hiring additional staff for this growth. And so I'm thinking that it was probably larger than it originally. It was even, and you've already stated, originally the one program was maybe not quite twice the size of where it is today. Okay. I mean, I'm just wanting to.
I think they normally have part-time instructors, and the way he described paying them, it sounds like Goodwill is paying a portion of the salary and WSU Tech is paying a portion, which is a great partnership, a way to get those instructors secured. So that suggests to me that those instructor costs are sustainable. My reading of the application is that the reason to hire two full-time instructors is because it's difficult to find and keep part-time instructors. Mm-hmm. And also because it sounds like they're using their own Goodwill staff to cover these classes, which they historically have done, but the staff are getting burnt out because we all know there's umpteen things you have to do when you walk out the front door to interface with the world. So I can understand that as well. So I think from my perspective, the part-time instructor and two full-time instructor requests are perfectly valid for this year and acceptable. I think the Chromebook request, if I have the right figure, $182,750 request for 250 Chromebooks is fine. Lindsay's guidance was helpful. I would set aside the service contracts, and they're taking the cellular connection portion of this request off the table for those Chromebooks. That's really expensive. If they can revisit those bids and come in with a clear idea of what the cost of connecting those laptops, establishing a cellular connection to those laptops is, I mean, we could revisit it, but I personally have a hard time making a case for that when we're talking about a 1 or 2 year service contract that goes into 2021 and 2022. So, and as far as the the Dell Latitude, the $288,720 expense, I'm really unsure about what that's for. Is that for a single computer? Is that for multiple computers? Is it to be used by staff? Is it to be used by program participants in either one of the Next Step programs? I'm unclear. Or is it just, as the county likes to say, standing up? I'm borrowing your terminology. I'm starting to talk like you now. I've spent so much time with you. the Chromebooks, right? Because you've got to purchase software, and that's really expensive. And other systems, maybe even technology that needs to be used in the classroom. I'm unsure about that $288,720, but it could be a legitimate cost if we're reimbursing it and they're already using it to deliver classes, which it sounds like they're continuing to do.
So if I'm to summarize what you just said, Dr. Walker, you're okay with the 146,926 for the instruction, another 182,750 for the Chromebooks. So that would bring us to 329,676 for those two components of their application.
Yes, plus the PPE disinfecting. And did we approve the work from home $3,797 request already?
We have not.
So I would add that to my okie dokie list.
Okay.
And then in terms of the $499,321 for temporary facilities, can somebody unpack that?
I don't think they've ever answered that one. Well, I have a trouble with the 419,643
That was my next question.
because they did give us a detail, which I appreciate. I'm okay. They added greeters to all 7 stores, and I can understand that need with COVID to make sure people come in with masks. But then they're adding 3 to 5 people per store,
Right.
plus store managers, which
Yeah.
to me, they already had those. That may be what they're paying, but that's not new. That would have already been budgeted to have a store manager in each store. So why that wouldn't seem to me to be CARES qualified. That was my question I sent to Hope last night, actually. Did you get an answer? Hope?
I don't think so because I had read exactly what he emailed me, so I don't think that was in the response.
Wasn't in the response.
Yeah, I'm double checking the one that Shannon had sent to see if it was towards the bottom at all. Oh, it looks like in that email they do break out the temp facilities. The
They
one that I
do.
had sent you guys on
Yeah.
But it's not the same dollars, is it? This totals 83,000 and their ask was for 499. So that's radically different.
They're leasing the building. Did they break out and it's from March through December 30th?
No, I'm not sure that's even in this other list we got.
I'm not sure. And I think, did they actually capture and state the cost of utilities,
No, I don't think they did.
It broke out the 419,643. I see that.
That's for the stores, I
Yeah.
believe.
And it does say all of this is for April 1st through December 30th, but still. And then let's see, there's the adult education facilities that are 119.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that, is that the Next Step program? Or,
Trying to figure out how this, because it does have the total assistance sought is at 928, 361, 17. So I'm
Right.
trying to figure out which boxes go to make up the temp facility. Because you said the temp facility number was what again, Shane?
499, 321 in their original ask.
This is Shannon. That was one of the things he majorly changed because he said they had calculated it for the school year, and I think it went down to like 80,000 or something like that, and it should be in his spreadsheet.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
321.
That's what the new temp facility is. Yeah, 83,220.
Okay, so the 419 became 83,000? Okay.
Yeah, he rattled off a bunch of. He said they had calculated it for a whole school year, and then there were a few other things, costs that they had anticipated that they had realized were not, had to do with some kind of some computer item. I can't remember exactly what it was. That they backed off of it because it didn't end up being feasible.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
would we be
so-
able to approve off of this instead of kind of going by the numbers that are a little confusing in there? Would we be able to, and I don't know, this is a question for Brent or Aaron, would we be able to kind of look at these boxes here on that sheet where it breaks it out, for example, where it says the 83,000, 83 2017, would we be able to say approve or don't approve based on this because it's broken out this way? I think that might be a lot easier.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. So 83,217, you said?
$220.17. Yeah.
$220.17. I leave the 17 cents to you, is now on my okie dokie list. So, okay with that change in temporary facility costs of 83,220. Okay with the work from home, 3,797. Okay with the two instructors and the part-time instructors, which total 146,926. Hopefully that's the same number Brent just said. Our calculators are working the same way. Okay with the purchase of the Chromebooks at $182,750. Have no idea how to think about that $288,720, but I'm open to input on it.
Well, and the other one's the 419. I think we've got to go back on both of those.
Did we just break out?
I think the 419 went away and it's replaced with 83,220.17 in Dr. Walker. I'm going to borrow your language, your okie dokie list.
Say that again, Brent?
So we have, Dr. Walker has proposed is 146,926 for the instruction, Chromebooks at 182,750, work from home at 3,797, then another 83,220.17 for the temp facilities, and that replaced their original request of the 419,643. 419,643 goes off the table, gets replaced with 83,220.17.
I think that's correct, except maybe my notes are wrong, but I had temp facilities at 499,321 and other emerging at 419,643.
Correct, I picked the wrong title, right?
Okay,
Other
okay.
emerging need. which
So
was-
Jane's right, we still need to unpack that 419,643 for other emerging needs.
Yep, that's correct. That's where it talks about the greeter position added to all 7 Sedgwick County stores at 156, 722.22. 3 to
And I
5.
would be okay with that, I think.
Yeah, maybe we should go through each line on this one.
I could see that is something they had to add. The others on there, I'm not at all sure are COVID or new costs, either one. They would appear to me they should have been budgeted already.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. The payroll specialist, the HR generalist, and then a DM and store manager expense for all 7 stores.
I think they're just giving us their costs for running the stores, not new costs.
Exactly.
That's what I think they've done. And then we're not sure on the 288,720, is that correct? That's where that Dell 3190, which we're not sure what that is.
Correct.
Okay. I don't think it's a duplication of the 250 computers, but I'm not sure.
I don't think so either. I think it's different.
I think it may be, but what it's for, I'm not sure.
Do we want to approve the things we can see or wait for details about the $288,720 for the Dell and details about the $419,643 for other emerging? Or just accept the greater costs and be done with other emerging too?
Let me propose a hybrid solution to that. The things that you've proposed, if the committee is good with those, we could approve them. We could approve the $156,722 for the greeters that were added for COVID. That's part of the 419. The others, we can't make that eligibility link tied to COVID. And then we could ask for further clarification on the 288,750 for the
Okay,
latitude.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So that gets us, my math is right, 573, 415, 39. I'll walk through those as we make that a motion, then we can walk through those specific amounts to get to that number.
Okay.
Do you want a motion?
Sure. If that's where we're ready for.
Okay, so moved.
How about I second it, and then I'll walk through it, and we'll see if our numbers are good.
Okay. All right, so I move that we approve the allocation of $146,926 for instructors, for part-time and 2 full-time instructors. The $3,797 request for working from home, the revised $83,220.17 request for temporary facilities, and you need to supply the amount for greeters because I didn't get that down.
156,722.
$156,722.
Your Chromebooks.
And the $182,750 for Chromebook computers for students to use.
And I think that comes to 573, 415, and 39 cents.
How'd you get, Brent?
573, 415,
That's-
39.
Okay.
And the 39 cents was 22 cents extra on that 156,000.
There was. And then we've also already approved the PPE and which was a substantial amount, but they've already approved that, so.
Well, I'll second the motion. We've got a motion and a second to approve an additional $573,415.39 to Goodwill Industries to cover part-time and full-time instructors, Chromebooks, work from home, IT expenses, portion of their emerging needs for the greeter positions at all 7 stores. And then the 3,220 was, now I've lost my place, but we've stated it.
The 83,220, is that what you're,
Yeah,
that was for the temporary facilities.
right, okay. 83,220.17 for temporary facilities.
Right.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None, the motion passes.
Okay, so are we going back to them for these other questions?
Or we can reach out about the 288,750 and that they can unpack that and tie it to COVID, then we can take that up at a subsequent.
Okay,
So is that the only follow-up we have is just unpacking the 288,750?
no, the store manager positions and,
Oh, you do want me to ask about those? Okay.
well, I mean, I'm just assuming that's what they are, but I don't know what they are.
Okay, sure. I can ask about those. I just want to make sure I have all my notes right. Anything else for the group wants me to ask them?
Well, I'm also not sure they have all the temporary facility costs in there. There's no rent. So I don't know. To go from 499 to 83,000 is a huge swing. I'm not sure whether they filled this out right.
Well, that's on them. I mean, at some
Well,
point,
It is.
we can only make decisions based on the information that's been provided to us.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So if we receive follow-up information, we can bring it to the committee, and if not, then
If we receive actionable follow-up responses.
there you go.
On their temporary facilities, in their explanation that on that spreadsheet, they did say that they are only including it for 2 months. And before it was for a whole year. So
Okay, maybe that's the difference.
I haven't done the math on it, but that would explain part of the decrease.
But they've been using, Shannon, the temporary facilities since March, have they not? I mean, they've been holding classes, they've been delivering classes with their staff and with instructors.
And this isn't, I mean, this is furniture. That isn't per month unless they're leasing it maybe.
Well, the furniture, well, but I think we've also talked about capital costs, and from a consistency and funding perspective, I don't think we funded furniture.
We just did. That's in their 83,000 is 54,000 at is furniture. In what they just sent us.
And I just looked at,
Cost of the new education site totaling 83,220, which we just approved, includes 54,375 for furniture, 5,256 for installation of said furniture, 10,468 for signage, and then projector screens and projectors.
yeah, I'm glad I'm glad you're who you are, because I looked at that again. I looked at it and I knew that we didn't want to fund the furniture, but didn't look at the total amount that we just.
Right, but they would have
Okay.
had to buy furniture for a new classroom. So I wasn't opposed to that.
Well,
You have to have a projector, you have to have desks for students to sit in.
yeah.
You have a temporary facility, those things aren't there. And it seems a reasonable cost to equip a classroom. But it seems like based on what Shannon just said, they prorated this, so they're only reflecting costs for the fourth quarter of this year. which tells me that this temporary facility hasn't been operating up to this point. And that's all the information we have. So if they want to say, oh, no, it was equipped and we have been doing classes in this temporary facility and here's the cost, they can tell us that.
Mhm.
But based on the information that we have now, these seem to be legitimate costs. I mean, we're not talking about reconfiguring a floor of a hospital, right? It's a different kind of capital cost. It's a different sort of fixed asset that's required to instruct. You need teachers, and you also need a physical space to do this in, especially because they're offering these Pearson modules that allow people to get certification in aviation and other areas. So there has to be a physical place where you can go to be tested, which probably involves desks and I don't know what all. Maybe that's what the Dell computer is for. I don't know.
I don't know. For me, it just goes back to growth, the expansion versus what they either projected to do and or are just continuing to do.
So Shannon, could you explicitly ask that question, because Melody's really concerned about that, and we should probably have an answer to it.
I think the question is, to the extent we're funding furniture or other assets like that, they need to be tied directly to their direct response to COVID.
The question is, the question that Melody raised at the beginning of the conversation about Goodwill and raised again just now is whether they're in this temporary facility because they're expanding their programs, expanding the number of people they're serving, expanding the number of classes, or because they need to engage in physical distancing to continue to serve half of the number of people they were serving in Next Step.
Well, I think it's both.
Which is it?
Yeah, they're going to answer, but they prefaced it in their narration. They prefaced it by saying that they are expanding. This is a growth program, yet there are, due to COVID, there are the COVID overlaying constraints that they have to are going to be required to follow, which is going to be the social distancing. So I can, I'm already thinking of how the answer is going to come back. It's just a question that I have, but
wouldn't you say with the economic downturn, having Goodwill in the community delivering training that prepares people for jobs in healthcare and in other sectors and provides certification training is something that's really, really needed right now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've never said it wasn't needed. That's not the perspective that, or the lens that I'm looking through from, because I know that it is. I know persons that have benefited from it. And I know the COVID constraints that have been placed upon businesses, both nonprofit and profit, in order to retrofit and or respond accurately and competently from a health related perspective to provide that service. So I don't, it's not about the need and recognizing it and supporting it, quite honestly. I'm just simply looking at it from a budgetary perspective. Was this already a growth plan? If it was, it was. They have the COVID related constraints that have put a collar around how quickly or how many persons they're going to be able to add to the class number. So I'm good with the program and with what it is that they offer. I just have asked that question before when we look at budgets. And we want to make sure that these are costs that are directly COVID related. And I'm sure that hopefully they'll be able to provide that with the additional questions that we've asked. So I'm good, ready to move on.
Okay. The next one then on the list would be United Way of the Plains. United Way, total request, $189,498, none of which is PPE or disinfecting costs. So that is the remaining amount to be considered. Hope, are you ready to discuss them, or you want me to walk through a summary?
Brent, this is Lindsay. I sent you a note. Hope had to step off for a moment to take a call.
Okay. So United Way, then we have application. Okay, out of the 189,498, they are requesting $24,630 in work from home IT infrastructure. Another $96,958 in expanding services costs. Another $67,910 in other services.
Well, I could follow this entire application. Thank you, Beth Oaks. And I had no trouble with any of their requests.
Couple of clarifications, maybe Jane can help me with these. I think the help center is the 211 line that's being used for pre-screening.
Right.
So I see the database and software costs of $96,958. And then at some point they mentioned $25,483 to serve 420 households. And they mentioned the help center, but I'm unclear about how that relates to $96,958.
I don't believe it does. I think the service of 67,910. You see that? That is composed of the 25,483, and then the HIP program of 41,427 plus 1,000 for operation immunization. That totals 67,910.
In addition to those costs, there's the $41,427 for hotel rooms, motel rooms to help homeless people isolate.
That's in that number.
That's in that number. Mm-hmm. Okay.
The 67,910 includes that 41,427. I think.
Yes, it does. $41,427. Yeah, that's in the 67,910.
Yes, it is.
Right. Yeah.
I would agree. Jane, that I thought it was easy to follow and to recognize what it is that they're doing that's directly COVID related.
Appears to me this is all COVID. So I would move that we approve the entire 189,498.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve $189,498 to United Way of the Plains. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have Ascension. We have two different applications for Ascension. So the first one that let's take a look at, because we funded a portion of that, would be the one for $5,383,441. Of that, we have approved $1,376,348 for PPE and disinfecting costs. $4,007,000. $4,007,093. That remaining portion of that is comprised of $269,215 in temporary facilities, $3,737,878 in other emerging needs.
Brent, can you, in the database, there are 3 proposals from Ascension. Is there a number on the end of the one you're looking at? 33139? Those are your 2 choices.
It's number 139.
Okay. And the one that has the September 17th date on it?
August 17th.
Oh,
There's one in the database that has the
Okay.
September 17th date on it.
Okay, I'm looking at the date that it was, I guess I'm looking at the
It's in the title, I mean, it's in the name of the
is
file.
that different from the 817 one?
I don't know, I'm going to look at it. So the total amount of this request is $5,383,441.
right,
Okay.
Is that the one you're looking at?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any breakdown of what is in the 3.7 million or the 269? What I'm looking at has no detail.
Mm-mm.
I don't see any detail on that either.
Yep, I don't have any, I don't know if Hope or Shannon have any other information or not.
Nope, I don't have any other information. I honestly didn't reach out for anything else.
Do we know if they're getting, I mean, these are regional hospitals. Are they getting funds from the Spark program? From the Kansas funds? They and Wesley? I mean, I guess I don't need to worry about Wesley.
They have received some funds, and I think Lindsay can give us a lot more detail on what they've received and some longer timelines on being able to use.
So yes, I am unaware of any distributions to the hospitals from the state Spark CARES funding. I had sent around some information a while back on the provider relief funding, which was funding that was also provided through the CARES Act to entities that receive Medicare funding. And so both Ascension and Wesley, along with a number of other providers here in Sedgwick County, have received some funding. And one of the interesting parts of that funding specifically, though I realize that's not necessarily part of this discussion at the moment, is that those funds may be used for capital projects, and those funds may be used through July 31st, 2021. So they actually have quite a bit more flexibility with those funds in terms of use plus timeline. So I'm happy to try and answer any detailed questions. But to answer your direct question, Jane, I have not seen any evidence that they've applied for or received funding from State Spark.
It just seems like that's the appropriate place to fund these when they're regional, they're serving patients from all over the state.
What's the allocation, Lindsay, to Ascension from the Provider Relief Fund, the federal fund, the HHS fund, which is a much bigger pot than the Spark Fund? That's just the state setting aside money from CARES.
That is. And so the most recent information I have shows that Ascension collectively received $15.8 million. If you want the precise dollars, $15,803,103.13.
Jane appreciates that.
I figured. I can see her writing.
Yeah, you can see me.
We
not
like
writing.
precision. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm getting a bad reputation.
No, it's a good reputation. You should be proud of that reputation. Hope, Shannon, and team, our questions about the Ascension application are, do you want to revise this request in light of the provider relief funding you've received for capital needs? And can you let us know what it is exactly you're asking for now? They may wish to change the amount that they're requesting, and we need details about what they're going to spend this money on.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
I think we can ask some of the same questions on parts of the other application for them. So let's jump over to that one real quick. And that total requested there is $1,611,000, and that's got the big capital expenditure in it.
Which one are you on?
So that would be Ascension that ends with. The other one with Ascension, let's see. Total amount on it is $8,611,163.
And if you're looking at the file, the PDF file, the last two digits on it are 3333.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
That 8.6 million is comprised of the temporary facilities, which is the big capital project that they were proposing, and then $1,986,635 in work from home or IT infrastructure.
And once again, you said we don't have additional or detailed information? I don't see it. So you're going to make the request?
Sorry to help if I unmuted. Yes, I will make the request.
Didn't know if there was anything additional on this that we needed to look at as we reached out to them.
It looks like from the application, they're recognizing $11.8 million from HHS from the Provider Relief Fund for capital costs. So perhaps they're making the argument they still have $8.6 million or some amount in capital costs remaining to cover. Maybe that's the $6.6 million temporary facilities adjustment request. I see $1,986,635 for work from home support, which in this application is the only thing I'm seeing that appears to be COVID related and approvable at this point. But we can wait until we get more information.
Do you want any more detail on that?
I'm assuming it's since March, but since we're talking to them about the capital request, it'd be good to know what the dates are when Those work from home IT expenditures were incurred.
One of the things that I would ask on the temporary facilities, on the prior application, I know that they did set up some temporary facilities for potentially housing people and doing testing and some things like that, if that's what those are referring to, rather than a long-term capital expenditure.
It seems like at some point when we reviewed an Ascension request, they were talking about having to isolate COVID-19 patients, which all hospitals are doing, and retrofitting a portion of a floor in the hospital to be able to do that, and capital costs associated with that. But I'm not seeing that in either of these requests now, so I'm confused.
Okay.
Maybe that's what they use the HHS money to do.
Well, there was I think in the one that we just recently opened, the $8.6 million request, that's the one that seemed to me like it was outfitting or renovating the COVID unit on the 8th floor of the hospital. And then I think there were some other temporary facilities in the other application that may have been referring to those immediate needs with those temporary isolation type activities doing in the emergency room and things like that. So I guess so we're clear, that'd be nice to know.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else we want to follow up on this one?
We are quickly coming up on 11:30, which is our scheduled time for today. Since we still have several applications to go through, would the team like to identify another meeting time for next week to pick things back up?
Can we do one more and then do that? The Black Alliance application, because I think we'll need more information.
Let me ask our broadcast person. He's given me the thumbs up, so yes.
Okay.
All right. We've got some revisions that probably aren't reflected on the spreadsheet I've been looking at for this applicant. So,
Well, there's two, right?
yeah. And I've got, my numbers have been significantly revised, and they're not updated on the spreadsheet that I'm referring to. So, Hope, can you speak to the current total request and how that breaks down?
I'm sorry, which application did you say you were talking about?
Be the African American Council of Elders.
Which one? There's
Yeah,
two.
we've got two, so
Dr. Walker, which one has all
Okay,
your,
so
are they both?
the one I'm referring to is the one that got emailed to us. It's an application, kind of two applications in one. So there's a request to do a media campaign that the request is $542,000 for a media campaign directed at informing minority communities about COVID and what to do about it. And then there's another application that seems to be independent, I'm unsure, from the Association of Black Psychologists to do, this is very ham-fisted, but basically to engage in training that will help mental health and other workers who interface with minority communities engage in COVID conversations in a culturally grounded kind of way, in a culturally appropriate kind of way. That's my Cliff Note version summary of these two requests.
that original amount requested was $1,014,350, but I think there've been some revisions. So,
The 750,000 that was in the request for, try to find it. What part of, I think it's in the programs and initiatives. Let me find that for sure. It went down to 194,000. Okay, so the 750,000 that was in the mental health support cost on the application ending in 697, it went from 750,000 to 194,000. And I think that was part of, I'm sorry.
I was wondering if Melody could help me with this. What is different to be culturally affirming? I mean, what is different about this? I just don't know.
So with the wording from ABSI, it is actually going to be trauma-informed, culturally affirming training. It's a different way of saying just what Dr. Walker originally stated. Cultural competency. A lot of individuals don't see that as adequately capturing the depth of and the significance of it being culturally grounded. So it's not only is it culturally affirming, but it's also trauma informed, which when looking at it from a psychological perspective and looking at the history of racism and what is actually contained in the training is going to be addressing systemic racism. So when looking at the history that denotes and carries with it historical trauma as it relates to the Black American or the African American experience, what my understanding of this training is that it would indeed, that it has to come from that center, that in order for it to be most impactful and most effective, that you have to initially train the trainers, train the individuals from this culturally affirming and trauma-informed perspective. So when looking at the three, and they call them services, it's 6 services that ABSI, so I am not referring to the communication application at all right now, but just to try and answer your question, Jane, of what's different. There were 6 services that were being described that could be offered, that the funding request actually captured. And the first 2 really did train the trainer, ground the trainer in this culturally affirming, trauma-informed lens, and in order for them to be most impactful and effective. I think that those were important. And then when looking at number 6, of course, it's very specific to COVID testing with the wraparound services. A possible time crunch because of where we are. We've talked about that on other applications. Are you able to do it? Will you be able to actually provide this service within this period of time that we have? But that's my quick on it, because I know we've got running out of time for today.
And to be more specific programmatically, what they did a nice job of laying out each of the 6 elements. So the things that are basically preparing or training people in the community that have to do specifically with dealing with systemic racism are the healing circles, and the emancipation circles. The other things that they're proposing involve training mental health workers, and that still is from a trauma-informed perspective, but it doesn't have this element of thinking about what does it mean to be Black and deal with racism and also COVID, right? Which is what those two other things, at least my understanding is the healing circles and the emancipation circles do. Is
I'd
that
say
fair?
you're accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes in succession. You start with the trainers.
Yeah.
That has to happen first in order for it to be most effective.
Okay.
So-
I personally was okay with, the only question I had was, isn't the county already doing the pop-up drive-through in minority communities? I mean, I've seen them advertised on TV numerous. Is that a duplication of what the county is already doing through the health department? That's a question.
The testing.
The pop-up in the minority community, I mean, I've seen TV over and over of pop-up sites in, are there not enough? Are there, that's just a question, whether we need more.
There's not enough testing in minority communities, not even close. So and bringing the testing to a minority community makes a whole lot of sense. But it makes more sense for the county to employ culturally competent people to do the testing who've been trained by this organization. So, I mean, and the resources that they've identified to do the pop-up testing are an organization in Culver City, California, that's connected with Shared Harvest Foundation. I looked them up on GuideStar and they're not even in there, which makes me real nervous. My COVID MD. I mean, I think they just kind of searched around for places that might host pop-up testing, and that seems really inconvenient and long linked. It makes more sense to connect people who have been trained with testing that's going on in the Black community in Wichita by this organization. And you said the acronym in ABPSI. Have I got that right? Okay.
Yeah.
You said that flowed trippingly off your tongue and not so much off mine.
It's a professional organization of African American psychologists. So, and they're very, very attuned, very well trained, and very committed to being able to provide it Afrocentrically and from a culturally affirming perspective. So
Hope, how much of this request is directly related to training that could be done in conjunction with pop-up testing, with other activities in the Black community in Wichita?
Well, the only thing I know is that when they provided this little pamphlet, I printed it out where it talks about like the sessions, the workshops, and all of that they're going to do. That's the $194,000 request that they're now having for the mental health support costs. And then they also had, $30,000 in food assistance, and then $174,000 in workforce development. I'm sorry. But besides that, I didn't have a whole lot of other information on any, because I didn't know what other questions to ask them.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat back the numbers you just said. $194,000 for the mental health training, $30,000 for food,
Yes.
and $147,000 for workforce development.
Where's that?
174 for workforce development.
Say that one more time, Brent.
174,000.
I have my numbers reversed. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what does that consist of? I didn't see that either.
I don't see that at all in this most recent one.
Well, they might have inside information.
Mhm.
They might have additional information.
I see the 195.4 on what we just got. I don't have the 30 and the 147.
Trying to see if that's anywhere else. Yeah, I don't know if we. Shannon, you don't happen to have any extra information, or Cassandra, I can't remember whose application this is, do you?
Is the workforce development piece described with the Clean Right LLC to retrofit its operation and train
I think you're,
employed
if,
folks?
if that's the case, I think we're looking at the original application
Mhm.
versus did we move away from ABSI from the yes, I'll just refer to it as ABSI. Have we moved away from that one? Because that's where I was still there.
I think it's,
It's incorporated, but
Right.
it is its own. I believe there was a question that Dr. Walker, she asked Hope about the trainings, and the trainings are not going to be affiliated with the workforce development portion of it. So what? Did we need addition? I guess I want to ensure that we've answered that portion of it. Do we need additional information on the trainings?
So did the 750 become the 195.4?
It did.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think I had sent in a question as what's in the 174,000.
And that 174 is specific to what? Were you asking Hope that? Because I don't.
Yes, I had emailed a question as to what.
That's the workforce
I don't know
development.
what
Oh, okay.
worship center is, or I just didn't know what we were funding.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking in our system to see because I know that Shannon and I had both reached out to the contact several times. So I'm trying to see in the backup she has attached here if there's anything that breaks that out specifically.
I think in the original application, there's some information about assisting Clean Right LLC to retrofit its operation. They were then going to employ up to 15 displaced unemployed residents to produce PPE. And then they went into some specifics of the 174. There's labor costs, administration costs, equipment.
I haven't got any of that information.
Okay.
I
Is
don't
that-
either.
Is that in the second application that was received?
Yeah, that was in the one that, the original application that the total is the 1,014,000.
Right.
15.
I believe it's. I'm pulling that one up. Yeah, the 1,014,350, and in it is where, yes, that information is there. It's the second. It's the second application under the African American Council of Elders.
The numbers he was just reading off are not on anything I have. Is that more information was received?
It's how they estimated the cost, how they came up
Are you
with the
talking about on the bottom of
170.
page 2, Brent?
Pardon?
Are you talking about the bottom of page 2 of the application where it says method of estimating the cost and service?
Right. Yes,
Heard
bottom
that.
of page 2, top of page 3.
But it,
It says 174 Pure Heart Worship Center budget.
Right, but what is
9,000.
that? That's what I didn't know what.
I think we need additional information if we want to consider, in order to clarify. But the workforce development portion of it is to, I think what was said, it is to retrofit a business that's already operating. So retrofit its operation to hire and train approximately 15 displaced.
So is that an existing group? I don't know what Pure Heart Worship Center.
I believe it is.
It says it's a food distribution program expansion they're trying to help with.
The Pure Heart Worship Center is that's where they're requesting 30,000 for food programs to support their ministry.
Okay, I get the food, but are we doing construction on a building?
It says that they're going to assist them in hiring approximately 15 displaced unemployed residents.
What my understanding is that they've been making masks. That was my understanding.
Yeah, that's what it says in the detailed description. Yeah.
And that they would be able to continue doing that is.
Yeah, I think they want to
expand that.
Expand it and hire 15 people to increase the mask production. That 174 is divided between labor, admin, equipment, materials, so forth, rent.
What is the African American Council of Elders? Their name is on both of these applications. What is their relationship to these efforts?
They're the fiscal agent.
Ah.
Okay. They are the fiscal agent. And the Black Alliance that you've referred to is a coalition of Black organizations that have really come together to combat, to work on reducing the disparities in that are related to COVID, as well as education and communication.
So the African American Council of Elders is the fiscal agent. Mm-hmm. The entire allocation from the CARES Fund would go to that organization, and then the Black Alliance would get a portion to do a media campaign, and the Association of Black Psychologists would get a portion to do training.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That'd be good to have clarification on that.
Yeah, I need specifics on that. But I do know that the organization that actually submitted the application is the Council of Elders. They would be the fiscal agent because
they have no employees. How are they going to do that?
They do not.
They have a 501c3 tax exempt status, so it's pretty common.
Yeah.
They're going to have a finance person in place to keep track of the money.
Do they already, Melanie?
Probably not.
Not in that capacity. Not in that capacity. I am in all disclosure, I am a member. It is a membership organization. I think it was Jane and I that talked about this yesterday. So the Council of Elders has been in existence for a number of years, decades, and it is a membership-driven organization. It is based on being considered to be an elder of the community. They have written and received grants in the past, and I believe have currently have a grant that they're administering. But no, there are no paid employees.
So the question for the African American Council of Elders is, how will they manage the flow of these dollars?
Mhm.
How will they support an accounting system and a reporting system?
Yeah.
They're going to have to hire somebody, and they might want to ask for money to do that.
Yeah, I want to support this application, but I am concerned how this is fiscally gathering receipts. I mean, that takes a lot of time. And maybe need to add a person to do that. I don't know. Now, they do have some contingencies, and I mean, there was some of that in there.
That was in the communications.
25,000. Now, maybe that includes hiring a accounting firm or a person or something. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, I think those are viable questions that can be directed at the council quickly.
Also, if we could have a brief conversation now that we've unpacked the $194,000 for the mental health training and the $30,000 for food and the $174,000 for workforce development. I'd like to address the $542,000 request from the Black Alliance to develop a media campaign with partners that they name, Walls Communication, which is based in Washington, D.C. and run by an African American, and two other firms, Meltwater and Chryson, who Meltwater looks like they do media analytics. So how many people are visiting our website kind of stuff. I don't think they've necessarily, with the exception of Walls Communication, identified entities that can help. And so Melody and I know just enough about communications and thinking about it in the minority context to be dangerous. So, but we both probably have opinions about it. The way the Latinx community receives information about COVID is different from trusted sources in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
This proposal appears to be directed at the Black community, which is great, but they're planning to use public service announcements and social media. And I mean, are they looking at the right places? It seems like a very, very traditional, it's not like barbershop and church based, right? It's not in the community. It's more using typical PR, marketing, and communication channels to get information out. And I'm wondering, is that appropriate? Will it work? Does it need to be coupled with more on the ground resources? The religious community, for example? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
To your point, Dr. Walker, I've asked several questions, most of which I believe I have gotten my answers. Hence is why you have the additional follow-up information from ABSI. With the communication request, I had sent this to Hope yesterday evening. Within the language, it says that they would produce or that there would be numerous deliverables. I'd like to know what those deliverables are. Also, with the actual budget that's included, I'd like for it to be extrapolated out. I'm making assumptions, which I don't like to go on. I'd rather have accurate information in terms of, let me give you an example. Under bullet number 1, it says radio spots cost per month. I'd like to know how many months. I don't want to figure it out. I just, it needs to be clearly explained.
I figured it out.
To your point, it doesn't make any sense to do paid advertising.
Yeah.
If you're a nonprofit organization, you do public service announcements. I mean, there's just basic things like that need to be addressed. They just don't have the experience. It's okay. It's all right, but they need to think it through a little bit more.
Well, I did.
And connect the training, right, and the other activities to the communications campaign. This is all of a piece, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I did figure out the math as to what's in their app, and it's basically 4 months,
Okay.
which we aren't going to be able to do.
Right.
So by the time you prepare these spots, you're probably looking at 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what I said. See, that is your bailiwick.
Well, I figured it's 4 months.
Okay. Okay.
And
But
then
it's not going to be 4 months now.
it can't be
So-
4 months now. My guess is 2 is the both.
So the budget is going to have to be revisited, revised. Hope, I don't know, is Hope able to be with us still?
Couple of other points. Lindsay is suggesting that the group that's proposing Black Alliance, that's proposing this media campaign, talk with the folks at the county, Kate Flavin, I'm assuming, and others who've been involved in media communications. With respect to the training, the Association of Black Psychologists, because I can't say the name properly, the acronym properly.
Sure you can.
I can. I got to practice, but not in front of you. Anyway, they need to work with the Black Alliance and with the Council of Elders to identify places and people to do this training with, not necessarily places because it's virtual, but people to do the training with. And they need to be training the people in the 211 call center that's screening people for COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And with agencies that are working with people who are homeless and with public safety people. And right, I want to see those groups named in this proposal and an explanation of how people will be trained and then used in those contexts. The place where most people who are concerned about having been exposed to COVID and wondering about isolation and treatment and all of that is the 36,000, I put that piece of paper away, the United Way, 50,000 people who the United Way is talking to this year who are calling the 211 number and they're doing screening on. Those people, all those volunteers and staff need to be culturally competent, and the people who are trained in culturally competent approaches need to be responding to those calls, right? And training people who are responding to those calls. And they need to recognize what's going on the ground. That's one of my questions about the media campaign. Who are the key players here? The county communications people, the 211 folks who are working at the United Way. You know, where are the primary interfaces with people who are Black and Latinx and other minorities who are exposed to COVID? They need to recognize where those places are and tell us how they're going to deliver the training and the media there. Mm-hmm. This is a great idea. I'm very supportive, as Jane is, of this proposal, but connect the dots. I also have a bias towards using Wichita resources. We have this inferiority complex, it feels like to me. We always use outside consultants. We go to Washington, D.C. or somewhere else, right? There might be people here in the Black community who have communications expertise who could be engaged in this. Nothing against Mr. Walls. Sure. He might be fine, and he probably has way more experience. He might have more experience, but we need boots on the ground here.
Yeah, and you know, I look at it from a collaborative perspective, because if I recall, some of the things that the Metro Commission, what is it? The Metro, Wichita Metro
Commission
on Crime, wanted to do some very targeted communication and and into Black and Brown communities. So, maybe there's an opportunity to connect those dots also. So.
Melody, sorry, I had to step away on a call real quick. I did get an answer to your information last night, but it is like a document that's really long. Another one, I think it's like 10 pages. So I'll send it to the team tonight so that way you can kind of go through it and see and let me know if you still need additional questions. But what else was there that you guys were needing me to follow up on? Rewatch this, but
was that specific to deliverables and the budget?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I think everybody would benefit from that answer too, because it seemed, I read a few of the pages before when I had time this morning, and it seemed pretty helpful. So once I send that out, we can kind of see what additional follow-ups we still need from there for our next meeting.
Okay.
And I think we can bring we'll have some conversations with our communications folks and be able to bring back a report as well as to how this will fit in with the county's efforts and so forth.
County's efforts. Okay.
And I did get some follow-up emails from the Wichita Crime Commission, the one we were talking about earlier. I just asked them, I sent and said, please say how this specifically relates to COVID. And they're working on all four, answers for each of the 4 applications. So once we get that too, I can let Brent know. So if that works with the communications team, we can try and see if there's any way to put that together or not. So.
So it looks like we've got some requests for further information.
Mm-hmm.
We're up against, I think, Dr. Walker's hard stop at noon. Would we like to determine a time to reconvene? I think the only time that I'm aware of that our room for being able to use YouTube and Facebook streaming, it would be unavailable, would be next Tuesday morning from about 9 to 11. So other than that, if we wanted to try to do something tomorrow, give folks time to get information pulled together for a meeting on Monday.
The BOCC chambers are not available tomorrow, so the earliest is Monday.
Okay.
I think Monday sounds great. That way we still have a few days until the meeting on Wednesday, the BOCC meeting.
Mm-hmm. Prefer a morning or an afternoon?
Morning is better for me.
Yeah, Monday morning.
That's okay with me. Are we talking all morning?
I guess it depends.
How about we book 9 to noon and see where we get, and we don't have to keep going if we're done.
That works for me.
Dream on, Brent.
Is this in the chambers?
It can be in the chamber,
So-
but we have to have the chamber do the live stream.
So did you say 9 a.m.?
Uh-huh.
How about breakfast?
Okay.
And good.
So we can do 9 to noon. The OCC chambers are available. If anybody wants to show up, we can at least have coffee and rolls.
Oh, Melody said bacon too.
Okay.
Coffee, rolls, and bacon.
Mm-hmm. It all works.
It can be all on one.
There you go.
Are
Okay.
people planning to be there? I mean, I don't want to be the only one that shows up in person.
Oh, I'll plan to be there.
Will you? Okay. You can bring
I
back.
have 2 meetings that morning, but I'll try to shift some of them around. Like, I also have meetings that afternoon, so I'll just move some of them around, but I won't be there in person.
Okay.
And I sent in this morning some questions on KVC and Rock.
Yes, I did get responses on those already.
We'll
But
have, so.
Yeah, I'll send it out to all the responses I got tonight to everyone, so that way everybody can kind of see if there's anything else. So maybe that'll help it move a little faster on Monday's meeting.
The other one I had just looked at, Girls on the Run, there's nothing in there as to what they want the money for. Maybe we could get that.
Sure, I can ask them for a detailed budget.
for
Yeah,
Monday.
sure.
Aaron, is the Zoom link going to be the same or a different one?
I'll send a new one out.
Okay. Thanks. I got to go, everybody.
Okay.
And-
You know, Melody, the British have baked beans for breakfast,
I know.
a full British breakfast.
The bold and spicy would be perfect with.
It would
Good way to start the week. Thank you all. We'll talk Monday.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.